Greetings everyone. Today I'd just like to continue talking about my campaign where I am a player for the first time, as last week's session a lot of the story progressed. So at the beginning of last week's session we continued on from our gnoll attack, so we finished off all the gnolls and we were preparing to move on our adventure when we actually bumped into a hobgoblin called Bazbar. Bazbar. He was a travelling pilgrim trying to get to the Sword Art Coast, I think he was trying to get to, but it was very cool because the sorcerer of our group, who's like a very charismatic guy in real life, and he's a very funny guy. He just immediately like threatened the hobgoblin, and it was very funny. And the hobgoblin was actually carrying platinum coins, and we were all amazed by this. And he had some kind of like good quality armor underneath his robes, so I wanted to actually try and kill him and steal his money, but the group kind of didn't recommend it, so I was like, alright, just put my hands up and just kind of moved on. He actually started talking in Goblin to the two other members of the party, and they obviously got it written down on notes and they didn't show us, so they have information that we don't know, which I don't trust them. My character just doesn't trust them. To be honest, my character doesn't trust any of them right now. But after we met the hobgoblin, we continued on. He actually gave us directions to this dwarven ruins that we talked about in the last session, as one of the party members found a tent, and that person who was murdered in the tent had a journal about finding this ancient dwarven ruins, and the hobgoblin actually led us there, which was very awesome, because as we went in, it was like bones were littered all over the place, and we knew it was either a gnoll lair or some other kind of monster's lair. So the elven ranger scouts ahead and gets surrounded by a kind of hyena pack, so I think there was about 5 or 6 of them there, so we get surrounded. I roll a really crap initiative, as my character's initiative is +0, so it's just his base roll, so I got like a 4, so I actually did no combat in that entire time. I was literally just sitting at the back watching, kind of cheering everyone on, but that was cool. Like, everyone just rushed ahead and did all cool things. I was just watching how everyone was dealing with it, and it was quite cool. So after we did that, they kind of scouted ahead and did some like looting, and the sorcerer found like this idol, and it was carved to look like the chaotic god that creates gnolls by like dark magic on hyenas. I think that's how the lore goes. But he found that, and he's keeping hold of that, and I think that's got some like key part in the storyline that's happening. So I'm interested to see if I can actually get my hands on that. I'm going to see if I can actually take some of the items that everyone's got that I think's quite useful. I'm going to see if I can try and take them for myself. But we walk into this main hall, and it's all of these dwarven statues with all of the different names on it. And the dwarf of our party, who actually comes from a noble background, so he's from a noble family, recognises all the people and starts blabbering on about the lore, and all of us are just like, oh my god, this dwarf just won't shut up. And then we get to this door, and it has a puzzle on it, and only the dwarf can know it, because the riddle kind of relates to dwarves who actually invest in the bank. So this actual dwarven ruin turned out to be a bank, which was actually really cool. So we were like, whoa, it's a bank? That must be, money must be inside. So it takes the dwarf a while, and he actually gets in, and there's this lone chest in the middle of a room, and the elf kind of does like a investigation roll to see if he can discover traps, and there's actually crossbows that shoot you if you try and open the chest with the wrong password. So the dwarf's like thinking, oh my god, what's the password? And it turns out it's his name plus his family's last name, as his family had invested into this bank. So he opens it, and it's just got this massive amount of like money that belongs to his family. I think there's like 4,700 gold pieces in there. So like, I was just like, dude, I want to go in there and just grab as much money as I can. But before we could, the dwarf literally just takes 200 gold pieces, puts it in his money pouch, just closes the chest, spins the password, and pushes us all out. And we're just like, oh, come on, dude, we wanted some of the money. And he's like, nope. So after that, we continue going down this corridor until we get to this room that has like a rotting kind of wooden archway that like couldn't fit like most creatures. And everyone says, well, Hamish, why don't you just strum your lute? Just give us an awesome performance. So I'm just like, yeah, just strum my lute, just play this awesome I had to do a performance roll, but luckily I've got like proficiency in it, so I'm just like, yeah, just doing an awesome performance on my loot. And then amazingly, this huge hyena just like crashes through this wooden archway, but he gets stuck. So he's just there, just like trying to bite us, and then everyone's just kind of like attacking him, and like I'm just like, whoa, alright, put my hands back. And I was pretty useless in the other week's attack rolls and everything, so I was like, oh, I've got to prove myself. So the halfling monk rushes off to the side as we're like being surrounded by hyenas that are emerging from the shadows. And 3 of them come from one side, and the monk rushes and attacks one of them. And then I'm like, alright, so I'll put my loot away and I'll grab my battle axe. And I'm like, alright, me, I've got to do this, I've got to prove myself. So I jump and rush over there. And I actually only need to take out one of them, since I think, well, I'm only probably going to get one of them if I'm lucky. But no, I did such a good roll that I actually managed to decapitate both of them in one roll, and everyone was like, whoa, that's so cool. I'm just there, it's like, yeah, and I was like, alright, I've got a mask in this, so I just pull out my loot, and I'm just gonna start going, decapitation, and I'm just like, yeah. And so I get a bit cocky, and I'm like, alright, I can cover this side, halfling, you go off that way. And then this other huge hyena just like pops from the shadows, and I'm like, shit. And it literally just like claws me, and I'm like, oh, luckily, hopefully I can survive this. He beats my armor class and he deals 14 damage. I'm like, that's all my hit points. So in one swipe, this hyena is literally just taken away all my hit points and knocked me prone. And I'm like, oh my god, I could die. But luckily the bard had like got my back, and he was doing like his healing words, and I'm like, well, thanks man, pals forever. And I just stayed prone for most of this, because I was like, well geez, if I get up I'm probably gonna die. So there the big hyena steps over me, and I'm just like, very rude, and he just like starts fighting the other ones, and like he actually gets one of the other people prone, and hyenas start to surround him as well. They tried to plug like the broken archway up with like the other big hyena that they killed, and they're trying to plug the hole, but the hyenas managed to scratch their way through. And so like it takes us ages, and we're just slaughtering hyenas, and just in the end we just managed to kill them all, and with us there just like with our weapons just soaked in blood, and we're just like, oh god, we hate hyenas. And that's literally all that happened in last week's session, and it was absolutely amazing. Like, I prefer being a player to a DM now. I actually I like being the DM in certain cases, like last Friday, when all of my mates and me go into town and play our regular D&D. That was a good session. Like, that was a good amount of story, and it actually went really well, and like everything fit and just fitted into place. But being a player is so awesome. Like some people just think, well, yeah, being a player is cool. I'm just like, well, I normally don't get to be a player, but it was cool. And that's last week's story, and I'll inform everyone what happens next week. So thank you for watching. If you like this, leave a like, comment, and subscribe for more nerdy content, and I will see all of you in the next video. Farewell.